Steve again, Soggy Bottom Farm. We're back out here on the old Wizard. No label on this side. Anyways, we took care of the starter. Still waiting on the dew to dry on the grass. So let's figure out what's going on with this PTO clutch. You can see where, let me get you right there, I guess. Electrically, it seems to be okay. Let's take it in the shop, find out what's going on. You know, while we're still out here, let's just slip it back on this shaft here. Keep it away from these stops and give her a spin. Man, that thing, it's like the bearing is, the grease in it is dried up. Let's take it inside. This inside shaft is not rotating easily because of this bearing. There might be another one in there somewhere too. I'm going to take these bolts out right here and we're going to tear it apart. Hang on. Man, got them bolts out of there. Nuts off of there. You might want to take a measurement between here before you do all that. You do have to set the gap on this thing. You can't just tighten it back up. Let's take it apart. This is the first time I ever took one apart. That's our friction plate. This is the magnetic coil. That thing's probably pressed in there. Let me eyeball it up a little bit. Be right back. After looking this thing over, I've decided at this point the best thing to do is just pop the seal off and let's eyeball up the inside of this bearing. We don't need to turn another starter job out of this. Let's pop this out of here. Man, that bearing's old. Yeah, I would say this is what's going on. This is all dried up grease. Let's just spray some dinosaur pee in there and see if we can't free it up. I'll probably choose this. I don't know why. It's what I got laying around. Just juice it up a little bit. Come on. Go in the hole. Let's take it back out here so we can use the shaft to hold it. Before I got out to the mower, this thing started to free up. I don't want to stick it on, take it off, stick it on, take it off. There. Now all we got to do is we'll blow all that nasty grease out of there. Do our best to repack this thing. And keep trucking on this lawnmower. We'll get this thing running. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Hang on. After we get that clutch put back on there, I'm gonna have to separate this guy. I've been out here letting it soak in some penetrating fluids. This one too. See, it's all rusted in there. And then this guy. Maybe you can see it better out here. See, this ball is moving around inside this socket. You know, somebody had to put that thing in there. I bet you money they just drove a ball end mill down in there, or a drill bit of some kind. same as the ball, and then they appear to have just crimped the edges of the hole in to encase that ball in there. We might just punch around the outside edge of it here and try to roll that, come on phone, roll that lip back down in there so it touches that ball. Tighten that back up. I mean, we could always just cut it off, add a new one, put a tie rod in, something, but let's just see if we can do this. One of these days you might not have a choice. This would be the only option. We'll figure out how to do it. Alright, thanks again for being here. I don't know if I'll end it now or keep going. We'll find out. Steve out. Do you ever knowingly start to do something and then say to yourself, man, I shouldn't do this, and then do it again anyways? I knew I should have done something different with blowing that bearing out. Alright, we'll keep going. Alright, I cleaned that thing out good enough. You hear this? Now it's possible that thing's got some dirt in it still, but it's awfully consistent. I got to looking at the race here, the retainer of these balls. It holds them all apart so they don't run into each other. You see how it doesn't touch the inner race right there on the right? Well, let me just point it out. Right here, there's a gap in here. Well, as that thing comes around, you see it? And this is hard for me to do. You see how this thing here, the retainer, is rubbing the race of this bearing? I'm going to manipulate that out of the way, and we'll see if we can't quiet this bearing down. Well, let's find out. I started doing it again, turning this thing into the starter project. Putting way too much time into it. It's just a lawnmower. But here we go. I cleaned it some more. I don't know if that's better or not. I don't want to have it make too much noise when I'm using it. All right, I'm gonna pack it with some grease, put the seal back in it, and we're gonna move on. Okay, I'm done playing with it. I packed it, put the seal back on it. It's pretty quiet. Let's throw it back on there. Can't throw it on there until we put it back together. What is that? All right, let me show you something. Then I'll do it on my own, let you go. Since we didn't take any measurements or anything, tearing this apart. You can't just tighten this up. You got to adjust it. In between this right here, this magnet, and this plate, you have to adjust the gap. I'm going to set it for like 20 thousandths, 30 maybe. You can put a feeler gauge down through these holes on each end, right here. That's why they're by the nut. And you set the gap. Just drop a feeler gauge down in here as you're tightening this and adjust that gap. All right, I'll bring you back. Okay, we got her all lobbered up with the old anti-seize there. Let me put this thing on and we'll give her a crank. Make sure it'll work with this thing mounted to it. So far, so good. Let's give it a crank. Gotta let the battery charge again. Hold on. Alright, it's gonna work. I gotta get this all cleaned up. Come on back. We'll keep working on it. Steve out.